Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and we got some breaking news here. The Las Vegas Raiders have gone out and they have signed edge rusher Jordan Jenkins. This is actually a player that I was literally just talking about over on Locals, and I said, hey, Las Vegas worked him out today, and you could definitely see them bringing in this young man here. So what you're going to see here on today's show is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, I don't have all the graphics that I usually do, if you will, but I'm going to tell you what type of player he is. We're going to go through and look at some PFF rankings. We'll break down some of his stats, and then the overall impact that Jenkins can bring to the table. So first off, I think one of the biggest reasons why the Raiders brought him in is because you needed some extra edge rushing help. There's no doubt about it, right? You know, you got Maxx Crosby, Chandler Jones, Malcolm Kuntz, but the fact that Gary Green was released, this opens up a spot for them. Also, all NFL teams, they had to go from 90 players down to 85. The Raiders also traded away Tyree Gillespie for a 2024 7th-round conditional pick. That means the Raiders entering today had 84 players on their roster. Now, you can insert Jordan Jenkins into that list, where now you have 85. I do think that you're going to see him out there up against the Miami Dolphins this upcoming week in the preseason game, which is a friendly reminder that I am going to be live for that game, taking on our Dolphins channel over on Chat Sports. And man, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so, because man, I don't care if I'm home, I don't care if I'm in a dog park. If the Raiders do something, I'm getting y'all a video, so hit that subscribe button and turn on some of those notifications. Now, in terms of what should you guys know about Jenkins, he's 28 years old, was drafted in the 3rd round all the way back in 2016. He's probably like 6'3 and a half, 6'4". I've seen some different measurements on him. I'd say he's a good 260, 265. He appeared in 11 games last season for the Houston Texans, which, you know, you're thinking about 11 games for a player that was released. Some pretty interesting stuff there. Recording 3 sacks, 20 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits. He also had 21 pressures. In his entire career, though, he has appeared in 83 games, which, okay, you are finding somebody who at least has a little bit of ability, being able to come after the edge and being able to bring down your quarterback. Do I know if he's going to make the 53-man roster? It's still probably a little bit too far in advance to be able to look at some of those numbers, but I do think that this was actually a good move, and I talked about it on Twitter, I talked about it on Instagram, that you go through and you look at a lot of those players that released from the 90-man. Jordan Jenkins was one of those players that I was like, man, it's kind of surprising, but now he's here with the Las Vegas Raiders. So this is what I want you to do, y'all. I want you to grade the signing. If you really, really like the deal, it's an A grade. If you're like, it's good, it's a B, then it's a C, D, and F. We've all been to school, right? So let me know right now, down in the comments section, what is your grade for the Raiders signing Jordan Jenkins? All right, let's keep on breaking down what type of player Jenkins is and where he's come from and his past a little bit. So he played college football at Georgia. He was actually born in Houston, Texas. Again, a 3rd-round pick, number 83 overall, all the way back in the 2016 draft. He was drafted by the New York Jets, where he spent the first 4 seasons of his career, 2016, 2017, I'm bad at math, 2018, 2019, and then 2020, so his first 5 seasons. And then he finished off last season with Houston. I have said this, I'm going to say probably already 100 times. This Las Vegas Raiders regime, they are not afraid to call past coaches that they have worked with or that they have been around. What do I mean by that? You see a lot of times, anytime a team brings in a new coach, you find players that, okay, maybe it makes sense for them to look at a defensive player that's played in a Patrick Graham system, okay? Maybe it makes some sense for them to look at a player who's played already with Josh McDaniels, Dave Zeigler in one of their systems. The reason why I think they just made a trade with Mike Vrabel and the Titans is because they have a good relationship with Mike Vrabel with all those years that he's been with Josh McDaniels up in New England. And then on top of that, I am not going to be surprised whatsoever if Texans GM Nick Caserio, who remember spent a long, long time in New England, worked with Jenkins. I'm sure McDaniels picked up the phone and said, hey, what's going on with this guy? And I am a believer that this could be a pretty interesting move here for the Raiders, and I do think it's one of the reasons why they did probably move on from Gary Green. It's not that he wasn't playing well. He actually was filling in for Chandler Jones and Maxx Crosby here and there. But overall, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's going to be a slam dunk move. I'll give it a C grade from right now. I do think he's a player that deserves to be on a roster right now. But in terms of will he make that 53-man, which is personally what I care about, that one is still remain to be seen. All right, let's go now to his PFF rankings. And I'll start in 2021. I'll break down some of these numbers for y'all, and then we'll continue to go through some of his rankings in past years. If you haven't already, please like the video. I know I ask a lot of y'all, but you know what? I'm making a video right now, and as you can see, Chuck is like, yo, dude, what are you doing? I thought you were just at work. But it's all good. If you could, like the video. If you won't do it for me, look at these puppy eyes right here. Do it for Chuck. Like the video for Chuck. All right, so last season, overall PFF grade of 49.2, run defense grade of 42.1. He's more of a pass rusher, which is what you're going to see with a 55.0 grade. And last season, played in 127 snaps against the run, 155 snaps against the pass, which, okay, not too bad numbers there. Let's go now to 2020. According to PFF, Jordan Jenkins, as my computer is loading here, had a 69.4 overall grade, and anytime you're in the 60s, that's good. If you're in the 70s, that's really impressive. He had a 74.7 run defense grade. Interesting. A 64.8 pass defense grade. He lined up 301 snaps against the pass, 197 against the run. Let's now go back to 2019, because when I look at numbers, I really only like to go back and look at the past few seasons for the simple reason of, if you go back and look 5 years ago, I'm a lot different than when I first started the Raiders Report, right? So in terms of overall grade in 2019, 66.9 grade, a run defense grade of 63.0, and then a pass rushing grade of 67.4. So overall, the move is intriguing to me. We'll see ultimately what he has in store in terms of going forward for the Raiders. But he's a player who's averaging, let's say, 34 tackles per season. I mean, these are some pretty solid numbers. So I'm literally, as I'm on here, I'm going to look up some more numbers here on Jordan Jenkins. But yeah, from a career standpoint, when you break down the averages, 34.8 tackles per season, we'll say 35. 4.2 sacks, we'll say 4 sacks, and then 1.2 forced fumbles, so 1 forced fumble. If you're telling me right now I can get a player on our roster who's averaging 34 tackles a game, 4 sacks, and then a forced fumble, I definitely think that that's a guy that I'm going to be interested in. Last season, for Houston, he did have 20 combined tackles, so please keep that in mind. Overall, though, you are just trying to get some extra depth, trying to get some extra looks at some players at this time. So 32 combined tackles last season with Houston. 20 tackles last season, 2.5 sacks. The year before with the Jets, he had 32, 2 sacks. 32 tackles again in 2019, but he had 8 sacks in 2019. 7 sacks in 2018, 3 sacks as a sophomore, and then as a rookie when he came out in the NFL, he lined up with 2.5 sacks. I do think also with a player like Jenkins, because he is, again, this 6'3", 6'4" hybrid who's going to be around, again, 260, 265 pounds, he could play outside linebacker. So if the Raiders decide to line him up as an outside edge rusher, which he's probably going to be listed as a defensive end, I can make an argument that he can play DE and he can play outside linebacker in our system for the simple fact of, when you have Patrick Graham running a 3 front set, a 4 front set, a 5 front set, you're going to have a lot of bodies moving around, and you need to be able to stay fluid. Or, as some of my friends like to say, you like to stay water because you're always, going with the flow. And I think that's what this move really here does. So in terms of right now, I would say the Raiders' top edge rushers out there, again, Maxx Crosby is an obvious one. Chandler Jones, Malcolm Koonce. Now you add Jenkins into the mix. You have Clelin Ferrell still there, and then Tayshawn Bauer. So after hearing all of those names right now, I want you to scale the Raiders' edge rushing room for me from a scale from 0 to 100. And when you think about it, I want you to think about it as, again, 0, it's the absolute worst. 100, it's the best edge rushing group in the league. I'll probably be somewhere around a 75-80. And that's because of how much confidence I have in Crosby and Jones. Like, that's probably one of the best edge rushing duos there is out there. Yeah, I want to see a little bit more out of Malcolm Kuntz, and I want to see more out of Clee, but I don't know exactly what you're going to get out of Cleveland Ferrell. I know the question is going to be brought up, Mitch, is this bad news for Ferrell? I talked about it a little bit in my 53-man roster projection video. If you haven't seen that one out yet, please do so. When I was, doing the show live, I was like, hey, Demarcus Robinson's going to get cut. And guess what? He ends up getting moved on from. I said Vernon Butler was going to get cut. He got moved on from. I still think Kenyon Drake is a trade candidate. But in terms of Cleveland Ferrell, you can't really you can't cut him. And I know for a lot of the loyal watchers, they're like, Mitch, we know. But it's $9.98 million to keep him or $9.98 million to move on from him. You're going to end up keeping him. But I do think there's going to be a situation where the Raiders could try to trade away Cleveland Ferrell. So we'll see ultimately what happens here. I'm hoping that nothing crazy in that regard does end up going down. And, I mean, if you can get a 7th-round pick for him, sure, you go for it, especially considering the fact that Tyree Gillespie was just traded for a 2024 7th-round conditional pick. So we'll see what ends up going down. But again, y'all, if any news or any rumors happens around the Las Vegas Raiders, I got your back. I know I can't always be in the studio, though. I do feel like some of y'all would like me to just constantly be in there. But my job here is to be able to keep you guys up to date. So I'm going to get ready to head on out of here tonight. And it's going to be a friendly reminder. You're going to get a mailbag on tomorrow's show. And you're also going to get a preview prediction, if you will, around the Miami Dolphins game. That's going to be coming out a little bit later in the week. And then I am going to be back for our watch party. We're going to start 15 minutes early. It's going to be going at 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be battling with our Dolphins hosts. They're going to be in the studio right next to me. It's going to be one hell of a time. So if you're a diehard Raider fan and you made it this far in the end of the video, you know what to do. Spam RO4L down in the comments. All right, y'all, if you want more videos from the Raiders Report, you can always click on this subscribe button right here. Yeah, you see that bad boy? Go ahead and click on that. If you want more videos from the Las Vegas Raiders Report, click this nice little square button over here. And then if you want to just get even more content, because you're like, you know what? I vibe with this guy. Click this button right here. That way you never, ever miss anything around the silver and black.